Today I'd like to continue our journey through chapter 13 of the Gospel of Matthew. We're looking at a number of parables in that chapter in terms of what they reveal to us about this mysterious reality that Jesus is talking about. We can't quite pin it down. It's this idea of the kingdom of God. What is the kingdom of God? What is it like? How do you describe it? So Jesus has been talking about the kingdom of God as this wonderful experience of finding something that is lost. And so Jesus talks in verse 45 of chapter 13, continuing that theme of the finding. He says, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. So here's this merchant, and he's really eager to find these fine pearls. And then in 46, when he finds a pearl of great price, he goes and sells all that he has and he buys it. So he's been searching very deliberately for these pearls. He finds them and then he just sells all that he has. He just wants these pearls. These pearls are very important to him. What does this tell us about the kingdom of God? How is the kingdom of God like these pearls? Or what's the connection Jesus is trying to make? Well, there's really three connections that Jesus makes in these simple two verses. The first is that you find this kingdom deliberately, and you find it after a deliberate search. So this kingdom is not just going to pop up and all of a sudden, oh, there it is, I see the kingdom. No, you've got to search for the kingdom. So there's got to be a deliberate search on your part. You've got to think, well, I want to truly find the kingdom of God. This kingdom of God, Jesus is talking about it. It's got to be important. It's got to be significant. I want to find this kingdom of God. I want to do it. So you make the decision. It's a deliberate, well thought out decision. Secondly, you need a total response to the kingdom. This partial stuff, well, I'll put my foot a little bit in, get a little bit wet in terms of, going into the ocean. I'll go in a little bit. No. This is not going to work with the kingdom of God. You need a total, complete response. You need to give yourself completely to it. As Jesus says in the parable, he goes and he sells all. He finds it and he searched, he's found it, and he sells everything. And then the third part is renunciation. This renunciation will lead to reward, which is a kind of a difficult thing for us to grasp. Most of us don't like renunciation of any type. We just, renunciation, well, I'll think about that. We turn our backs on renunciation. It's not something it's going to be high on our list. Well, what can I renounce today? No, we don't work that way. But Jesus is saying when you do renounce things, it does have a reward. So what has this fellow renounced? Well, he's searched. First of all, he's been deliberate in the search. It's taken a while. It hasn't come easily to him. So it's taken a while. And he's had to renounce all his money, his material stuff, and to buy this. So there's a lot of renunciation. But what does he have? He has this great pearl that he's been searching for. Now, what will he do with the pearl? Will he just keep it? Will he sell it for a profit? We don't know. We just know that he has been searching for this. He's found it after a hard search. He's given everything to it, sold all, and he has this, and he buys it, and he's very excited that he has this. So how is this like the kingdom of God? Well, Jesus is making some parallels here. He's saying, well, it's very similar in the sense that if you truly want this kingdom, you've got to search for it. It's not just going to come out of nowhere. You've got to be deliberate in your search. You've got to respond totally to the kingdom. You can't just respond partially and say, I want a little bit of this kingdom. No way. It's got to demands one of those things that demands a complete response on your part. You've got to give yourself entirely to the kingdom. Devote yourself completely to it. The kingdom is everything for you. Just like this fellow sold all that he has, we have to dedicate all our energies. Paul speaks about praying unceasingly, deliberately, completely, giving yourself totally to Christ and to the kingdom. And thirdly, this renunciation, when you've given yourself, is going to have this reward. And what is the reward? You're in the kingdom, and you're sharing the kingdom with others, and you're experiencing God's love, and you're filled with the joy that Jesus wants to give you in the kingdom. So there is a reward, but the other side of that reward is the renunciation that you have to do in order to achieve the reward. Jesus further speaks about the kingdom, so he's really fleshing this out for us. He's giving us a lot of great ideas about what the kingdom is all about. He shares another parable. This is in verse 47 to 50 of chapter 13, this chapter that's chock full of parables. This is the parable of the net. And Jesus says in verse 47, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the sea, which collects fish of every kind. So this kingdom, it's like this net. You throw it out there into the sea, and all of a sudden there's all these fish, different kinds of fish. Very interesting how Jesus is continuing on this theme of the good and the evil. Every kind of fish is in the net. It's universal in scope. The Greek word that is used is interesting as sagene, which is a drag net. So it's this huge net that you use in fishing. And as any person who's done fishing with the net knows, you're going to get some really good stuff in there. But you're going to get some stuff that's terrible that you can't use, that you wind up throwing back. That's really garbage for you. I mean, it's just stuff that you can't sell it, you can't eat it. There's no use for this. And so it goes back, and maybe some fish or other fish will eat it, or it'll become part of the environment of the lake, of the sea, of the ocean, but not for you, right? So you've got the good and the bad together, which has been a consistent theme of Jesus in these parables. We saw it with the wheat and the weeds. And we saw it in the parable of the sower, where some of that seed fell on the bad land. It didn't grow too well, just evaporated, dried up. So in the kingdom of heaven, this kingdom of God, this church Jesus is referring to, right? You've got the good and you've got the bad. We sometimes say, well, in the church, there's a lot of hypocrisy. Some people, they go to church and they're big into church, and they're not very good people. They're not nice to their neighbors. They lie, they cheat. I don't want to be part of an organization like that. Well, unfortunately, human organizations very much are like that. You've got the good and the bad together. That's part of the deal. It's not going to be all good all the time. It's not going to be perfect all the time. There's going to be the good, and there's going to be the bad, and we've got to deal with that. That's our human reality. That's Jesus' reality in terms of the incarnation. Jesus came and took on human flesh. It wasn't that he encountered all good people and had all good experiences. No, he had the good and the evil. And the reality of the kingdom is that you've got the good and you've got the evil together. But then what happens? In verse 48, when it is full, they haul it ashore. So they bring this net ashore, and they sit down, and they put what is good in buckets, so they can sell it or eat it. And what is bad, they throw away. So there's going to be good, there's going to be evil, And part of our discernment process as church, as people in the kingdom, is we have to know what's good. We have to form our consciences to know what is good and to pursue the good and to reject the evil. And that is our challenge. And it is not always easy. Sometimes something might appear to be good, and then we see, well, wait a minute, the fruits of this are not too good. There's not a lot of love coming from this action. There's more evil than there is good here, and so we discern and we throw that away. We say, I'm going to reject that. That's not going to be part of the kingdom of God for me. That's not going to be part of our church. Our church is going to pursue a different path. We as people, a different path. And then Jesus says in verse 49, thus it will be at the end of the age. The angels will go out and they will separate the wicked from the righteous. So at the end of times, there will be this separation. There will be the good and there will be the evil. And then in verse 40, throw them into the fiery furnace where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. So again, the evil gets thrown into the furnace. And the wailing of and grinding of teeth is what we call an eschatological reference. The eschaton refers to the final days. And so this is the idea of this ultimate separation of good from evil. And this was repeated from verse 42, where we found this again in Matthew 13, this idea of the wailing and grinding of teeth, which is the idea of agony, of pain, of ultimate separation of good from evil. So Jesus is telling us this is what the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God is like. It's going to be good? Yes. There's going to be evil. We have to separate it. We have to discern. We have to try to follow and embrace always the good that Jesus wants us to embrace.